Well, good morning and welcome back to the December edition of Garage Talk. I told you I was going to do this, and so I'm sitting here this morning recording it. It's a crappy day. It's raining outside, overcast, and not worth really much of anything. So I've good day to sit in a garage and talk about what's going on. So I've got my Leave It Better Than You Found It hat, which I should probably turn around because it never stays on my head straight. So we'll try it that way. All right. And got my trusty slippers on. Instead of bourbon this morning, we got, a cup of coffee. And my daughter bought me this. My favorite child gave me this mug. So figured I better at least use it once or twice on video. So thanks, Sydney. Not quite bourbon, but nothing wrong with coffee. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, first, let's talk about a couple of changes, updates per se. All right, so I've added a box on my website where if you want to subscribe for, news updates or the latest, information on videos or things like that, you can sign up for it. You'll go into my email list and I'll be able to email that out to you so you can, at least get notified of what's going on. So please, if you're interested, go to my website at www.deweybephotography.com and subscribe to that. That would be absolutely fantastic. Hopefully, if several of you will do that, and it'd be greatly appreciated if you do. All right. Also, I've added or kind of did a little bit of modification, updating to the website, so go check that out as well. All right, so what else is going on? I've made a change to my plan, all right, from a retirement standpoint. As you guys know, in the last Garage Talk, and I've talked about this a couple times, I'm retiring at the end of March, and I'm heading off to Ireland with my wife to celebrate our 40th anniversary. None of that's changed. All right. Nothing there has changed at all. Now, what has changed is after that, I've been talking about either going out to the wall or going out to the Grand Canyon possibly and, sleeping in my Jeep along the way and taking photographs, those kind of things. I'm not going to say that's not going to happen, but that's not the next step. All right. The next step is going to be fulfilling a lifelong dream. I got the opportunity this last week to join a group that is going to do some location scouting in the North Queensland and the Northern Territories of Australia. As a kid, I always wanted to go to Australia, and I never envisioned in a billion years that I'd ever be able to do that. But I've signed up for it. I'm going to be, going along with Brendon Van Son. If you're not familiar with his work, I'll put a link to his channel in the description. You can please go check it out. But Brendon is really the reason why I'm on YouTube, and it's really how I got into YouTube. Many years ago, I started, just one day I was doing a little bit of research on, or trying to do some searching on YouTube for photography stuff, and this kid's name popped up, and I just started watching, and I kind of got hooked. Brandon's a travel photographer that runs a couple different businesses, and when I started watching him, he was much younger than he is today. But he lives in Portugal. He's from Canada but lives in Portugal. All right, and he does a lot of great photography tours. He does great videos, and he at one time he was vlogging every single day. Which I don't know how the heck you do that, but he did it for a very long period of time. And I just I always got fascinated by it, and ultimately that's the reason why I created the channel that I have. All right, not that my channel is anywhere near as successful as his, but regardless, that's the main reason how I got into this. All right, so I figured, here's an opportunity where I can fulfill a lifelong dream. Along with that, I can actually, travel with somebody who really got me into the YouTube side of things. And so I will be joining Brandon and 5 others. All right, and we will be, traveling along the northern coast. From Brisbane to Darwin, looking for locations and scouting and taking photography for 15 days. All right. And it's absolutely something I can't wait to do. And yes, if everybody's wondering, my wife was incredibly supportive. Again, same thing as with my, 50 to 200. You're retiring. You worked your entire life. treat yourself, go enjoy it. So guess what? That's what I'm doing. I'm going to go and I'm going to enjoy it. And, I'll share, try to make some videos. I'll definitely share images. I'll share everything I possibly can about that trip. Maybe even get Brendon, if it's possible, to spend a couple seconds to talking to my audience. But I'm really looking forward to that. That's something that just came up here in the last, week, and that possibility, and I jumped on it. And, God willing, I stay healthy between now and then, I'll be able to go and do that. I'm stoked beyond imagination. All right, I don't even use the word stoked. I can't believe I just used that. But yeah, I just, it's, how, why, how, did I come up with this dream to want to someday visit Australia? I don't know. I think it's just, watching different things on TV, the Sydney Opera House, and just, when I was a kid, it just was one of those things like it's so far away, there's no way you can ever get to it. And, when I think I've talked about this before in other videos, but I haven't, I'll bring it up again. When my daughters were born, I named them, my wife let me name them, so I named them after places or places I've always wanted to go from when I was a little kid, to, even to this day, that I felt I would never be able to experience. So my oldest daughter is named Montana, and that is after I always wanted to go visit Glacier National Park. I saw a video on PBS about the national parks, and it just fascinated me, and I always wanted to go. And so I never figured I would, because it seemed so far away. So I named my daughter Montana after, that. All right. And believe it or not, I've actually made it to Glacier National Park. I did that in 2015, and, I'd love to go back again. It was absolutely everything I expected it to be, and look forward to going back again. And then my youngest daughter, the one who bought me this cup, all right, Sydney, was named after Sydney, Australia. All right, because I figured I'd never get to Australia, and it's just, so hopefully nothing happens between now and mid-April, because basically what's going to happen is I'm going to go to Ireland, come home for a week and a half, then hop on a plane for 25 hours to get to Brisbane, Australia, and spend 15 days there. So it'll be a little bit, certainly some jet lag and all that stuff, but I don't care. I just want to go. So it's something I'm looking forward to. So now what else? I thought what I would do really is the main topic, all right, for this particular episode of Garage Talk, is talk about my Winston tripod. All right, I've had this now, again, and I got this, while we're on the topic, I got this as a recommendation from Brendon Van Son. All right, when I was looking to buy a new tripod, I messaged him and asked him what, he thought was a great tripod, and he messaged me back saying to buy this, and I did. And I've had it ever since. So probably about 5 years. So this is, been 5 years of, I enjoy this tripod. It's a great tripod, and there's a lot of positives about it. But there's also been a few negatives. All right. Now, do I wish I hadn't bought it? No, I love having it. But I do think it's important to talk about a few things. So if you're thinking about getting one of these, all right, and I highly encourage you, if you're looking for a good, sturdy tripod, this is definitely one. But it does come with a couple little quirks, at least mine did. All right, so the first thing is, if you go back and look at some earlier videos, I had trouble when I would stretch this out, all right, I had trouble when I would go to close it on this particular leg, it wouldn't move, it would be stuck, and I would have to force it in to get it to work. All right, so I fought that for, I don't know, the better part of a year, and it frustrated the hell out of me. I figured one day, I better try to figure out what's going on with it. So I took and started taking it apart, and what I found on the inside of here, there was a sleeve that goes on the end of this, all right, that was broken, and it wasn't lined up perfect. So I messaged Three-Legged Thing, all right, and told them the problem I was having, and asked them what I should do, and they sent me new parts. And I put those parts in, put it all back together, and ever since then, problem's been gone. All right, so, Three-Legged Thing, they definitely do a good job of taking care of their customers. They took care of me, and I had this for more than a year, and there was no questions asked. They just sent me the parts. I worked on it, put it back together, and I no longer have that issue, and it's, greatly appreciated. All right. So the other thing, and again, I've had this thing almost 5 years. I can't believe I just learned this. But the other problem, you guys have seen in videos I've talked about it, how this thing sometimes the ball head just seems to be loose and it wants to wobble. And if I don't pay close attention, I have that problem. Well, what I found after I finally got tired of having the problem, all right, is that I found it online when I went to forums that people talk about it. That, if you don't put this together correctly, you will have a problem. And I never noticed this. I just finally one day got mad and decided to go and look, and of course, so what do I have to do? Well, there's this little bolt in here, all right, goes up in through this. And what they basically were saying was you need to put that bolt into the ball head first, then put everything else together, then put it in here, and that problem goes away. So I tried that, and sure enough, problem went away. So many years of frustration, and I could have solved it in 2 seconds if I'd have just went and looked it up online. So there's a note to everybody. Don't, if something isn't right, go out there and Google it, search it, do something to see if you can find the answer. I know better, but I didn't do it, and it took me many years. 2 other complaints I have is every once in a while, the little bolts here that, hold the legs, make them tight, they come loose, so I have to every once in a while tighten them up. Not a big deal. The only other complaint I really have about this tripod is it's just big. I mean, it's not heavy. I mean, it only weighs a little over 3 pounds, even with the ball head on it. But it's just big putting it in a backpack. A lot of times when I put it in my backpack, it likes to pop me in the back of the head if I don't put it in there nice and tight. All right. So to me, it's hard to travel with. And that's the main reason why I bought my Ulanzi tripod that I got everything set on right now that I'm currently using. All right. Was for that exact reason. Now, I wanted something smaller and easier, that packs down really tiny, where this doesn't. And that's really it. I mean, actually, that's the downside. The upside is you only got 2 things you got to worry about pulling out to get it to full length. All right. And that, to me, it makes it a real quick, easy setup. The other thing is the legs unscrew. I mean, it basically goes down to nothing. The center column comes out. You don't even need to have it in there. I mean, this is a fantastic tripod. Granted, it has a few quirks. All right, but it's $500, all right, and it's worth every penny as far as I'm concerned. This has been my, go-to tripod for the last 5 years, and I wouldn't have another one. I mean, any other one, I should say. I mean, this is, even with the little quirks I've had, the little problems I've had, Brandon was right. This is a great tripod. And, again, if you're looking for something, all right, you don't mind, that it doesn't collapse down to nothing, all right, this is a great tripod for a reasonable price. I mean, some of the, comparable performance in some of these other tripods, you're looking at $1,000 or more. This is half that. And it's not super heavy, but it supports, I think, up to 40 pounds, 50 pounds. All right, even with the ball head on it. I mean, it's a good setup. And I highly recommend it. All right, not just because Brandon put me onto it, but because I use it, I enjoy it. I think it's an essential thing to have. Now, when I go to Australia, am I going to take it? I don't know. When I go to Ireland, am I going to take it? Definitely not. I'm not going to take any tripod to Ireland. I will be when I go to Australia. I may take this, I may not. I may just take my Ulanzi. I don't know. I haven't made up my mind on that. That's, several months in advance, about 4 months away, 4 or 5 months away. All right, I still got to book my flights for that trip. But, it is definitely something, I think, if you're looking for a good tripod, something that, you can count on, something that going to last you a long time, this is definitely something that you would want to invest in. Recognize there's a couple quirks, but once you learn them and figure them out, they're not really a problem. All right? So now, after that, what? Not really much of anything. I mean, still, working every day, still, looking forward to retirement. For some reason, every time I, get really focused in on the retirement side of things, recruiters start trying to contact me. I don't know why that is. It's just, I always think it's God testing me to see if I really want to retire. So recruiters, if you happen to see this, certainly you can continue to contact me. But my number one priority today is, working towards retiring and finding that, lab coat job, to do in my spare time so I can focus a little bit more on photography and just live without stress and enjoy the days that are ahead of me, as opposed to, worrying about the things I worry about today or the things that were behind me. So, anyway, just want to say thanks, everybody. Greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Remember, leave a comment down below, tripod wise, trip wise, anything that's on your mind. I certainly enjoy it. It gives me an opportunity to see where you're at and what you're thinking. That way I can respond, or at least say thank you, which I greatly appreciate. Give me a thumbs up, share the videos, try to help us grow the channel here. I want to try to get it to where it's monetized, and, I can start asking, some other places if they would be interested in sponsoring me, and, continue to work on building the channel. Hopefully everybody finds it, something they enjoy watching. I did go look at, Ron Durant. I went and checked out his channel. He was at the Glade Grist Mill. I'll put a link to his photography channel below as well. I mean, several of you had mentioned that he had mentioned me, and which is greatly appreciated. I went and checked out his channel, and I got to get to the grist mill. All right, that's all there is to it. I got to put that on my list of things to do. It's not that far away, so that's something I'll be doing here in the future, maybe next year, either in the spring or in the fall. Not sure yet when I'll do it, but I'm going to definitely go do it. All right, so I rambled enough. All right, so thanks for coming along, everybody. Till we see you again, stay safe.